So let's see with which weapons I'll be invading. Uchigatana. Okay, I wanted to be invading with the katana for a while. Okay, the Uchi. And the Crescent Axe. Okay, that's cool.
Hey guys, so today I'll be invading with the Uchi and the Crescent Axe. Both the weapons are dark infused in order for me to up the damage on them a little bit. The Uchi is one of the few katanas that can be infused, and the one with the lowest necessary dex requirement at 16, making it the best katana in the game to infuse when avoiding stat spread. Katanas are not very good for invading in my opinion, if we exclude the running attack. This makes them one of the best chase down weapon classes, but they are not as good as curved swords or straight swords in a neutral situation in my opinion. They are reasonable, just not as good as those other two weapon classes. I'm using the Llewellyn to parry, although in these videos I get some parries with the Uchi. The thing is, the Llewellyn does everything better than the katana at parrying. It has more parry frames, it can set up parry, it can reliably face tank parry, it can mitigate damage, and it does not have a sheet animation. I use the katana for parrying just to show off really, and in low stress fights where probably I was going to win anyway. The big advantage when parrying with katanas is that less people will be aware that you will parry them, and this is very important. A very important tip about parrying with katanas is to try to skip the sheet animation that precedes the parry. If you sheet your weapon, everybody backs off and will play carefully and you won't get a parry. So you need to use mix-ups and avoid the opponent see your weapon sheeted. One mix-up that I use a lot is to go for the weapon art R1. The opponent rolls and then I weapon art into R2. The parry will come out almost immediately. Other idea is to do a running attack into a katana restart parry. In fact, katanas work well in all restart parries, and even good opponents won't see them coming, because they won't think that you will parry them with the katana. Also, there's a cool R1 into weapon art R1 that will roll catch your opponent if he does not double roll. It's not nearly as strong as a straight sword R1 into R2, but is something to keep in mind. Finally, I like the poke on the katana one-handed R2, and that's why I use the katana one-handed, as it will suffer a very minor decrease in AR when dark infused. About the Crescent Axe, it's an interesting weapon. It's the baby of the weapon class. It's the shortest, lightest, least damaging halberd in the game, but it's also the weapon that spends the less stamina on the whole class, so it's good for stamina-starved builds, especially at lower levels. It's also very good for chase downs, and on builds that need a low-weight halberd. Its moveset has nothing really special, aside for the weapon art, which is Warcry. On a dark build, Warcry does not increase the AR a lot. However, it can be used in some situations to surprise less experienced opponents, especially because of the stun of the fully charged R2 and the massive range, which makes it hard to outspace. So don't get cocky while the other dude is going for the weapon art on the Crescent Axe, and just roll back. You will be safe. Against experienced opponents, its utility is small, however. Its hyper armor, like in all halberds, is quite weak, and it only exists when you two-hand the weapon. So you need to stack a good amount of poise to make it indefinitely tank non-hyper armor weapons, as you will need 37.15 poise. Against anything heavier than that, and it becomes very hard at soul level 90 to stack so much poise, as poise has diminishing returns. So I went for 37.18 poise to poise trump non-hyper armor weapons, and the rest of the build is the usual one I tend to use for melee characters. On a final note, let me tell you that this setup is far from optimal. Crits in this build will do very low damage, so this is a hard to use build where you generally have to play around your opponent. Let's watch some invasions. So this fight right here was against a Hevel monster with the Great Club, and one of the things in the build I'm using is that I don't do a lot of damage on criticals. I would do on a Hornet Ring backstab against this dude around like 450 damage. Now if he has 14 Estus, that means he can heal 14 times my backstab, and I'm not going to get 14 backstabs. Because each Estus heals for 600 at plus 10. So I'm trying to play around him, and I don't know if he's going to heal. If he's not going to heal, I'm just gonna whittle him down, and I won't heal as well, because this is my best chance at winning this invasion. So I managed to hit him, and I'm doing pretty good damage with the Crescent Axe, but then the dude heals. And this changes everything, because if he heals, I probably won't have enough Estus to outlast him. So I need to go for 100 Hunter Charms, and the idea now is to always keep him under the 100 Hunter Charm effect, but I need to have a good opportunity to use the Hunter Charm. And he goes for the weapon art into R2, and this gives me a good chance of putting him under the Hunter Charm effect. Because if I threw it out of neutral and this guy is playing well, he's playing really reactive, and he has good R1 discipline. He doesn't swing more than he needs to, so it's really hard to outspace an opponent that does this. Again, one of the few times he went for the 2 R2s, I get him with the Hunter Charm. Now, I'm not afraid to be hurt while I'm doing this, because it's 1 health bar of his, because he cannot heal, against all my Estus. So I'm okay with it. Anyway, here I go for the cheeky between his swings rolling attack, which on katanas comes out quite fast, and I managed to hit him. Again, I predict when he's going to hit me, and I hit him with the 100th Hunter Charm again. Now I only have one chance to do this, because not only my Estus is dwindling, I don't have a lot of 100th Hunter Charms. So I only have one chance to do this, and probably he will out-heal me if this strategy fails. So I'm doing my damage, his health has been dwindling down, and feeling confident, and now he goes for the charge R2, and I just run around to buffer my running attack, and now I go for another running attack. And this worked really well. However, I only have 3 Estus flasks, and if he was able to heal, there was nothing I could have done in that invasion. So and that dude played well, so GG. So this invasion starts right off the bat with backstab, and I'm doing less than 500 with the Uchigatana with Hornet Ring on. And 500 is not high value at all. So these two guys, this guy has Profane Ultra Great Sword and has a shit ton of poise, also has the Yorm's Great Shield, which also increases poise, and the other dude is a Cleric, and he is a better player. The host spams R1 too much, doesn't have a lot of R1 discipline, but they complement themselves, because one has a fast weapon and the other one a slow weapon. But this guy is doing a lot of damage, and although I don't think he's a very good player, he's a decent player. He knows what he's doing. And this is one example why you shouldn't always use 2 R1s. I'm going to do a video about the stun lock mechanic in Dark Souls 3, the 2 R1 stun lock mechanic. But anyway, this was a good example of why that mechanic makes some sense in this game, and it's not all bad. Anyway, so I'm fighting these two dudes. I'm being careful. Now I go for the Warcry to up my damage what I can. I'm doing some damage to them. Now I go for the R2 weapon art for 272 damage, which is relatively good. I'm punishing this dude as well. I'm playing reactive. Things are not going badly. I'm managing my stamina well as well, which is also important, and it's one of the strengths of this build. Now, I really thought I had outspaced this one, and if you look at it again, look how he goes up the stairs. He starts at the beginning of the stairs and ends up at the end of the stairs, so trying to outspace people on stairs always gives me trouble. Anyway, I took a big hit, and now I need to heal. I went for the Estus bait as well. I missed, and now I have to use the pillars for protection. And again, just 1 R1 just to stave them off, and again just 1 R1 and not 2. This gives me this gives me more options in this case. Now I get stun locked by the straight sword, and then the ultra great sword hits me, and now this guy goes for the punish. This was really well played. Now I take a chance this guy was running and going for a jumping attack to go for the backstab. I'm not doing nearly enough damage. I try to go for the parry on this dude because I'm getting very low on Estus and on health, and people need to die. And I noticed that this dude delayed his R1s a little bit, so I delayed the parry a little bit as well. But again, I have no burst damage, not enough burst damage. Again, I wouldn't have done this on my first roll because it's a bit risky if I failed, but now I have no other chance. So I need to do a lot of criticals in very little time, and it won't be enough because I don't have enough damage. Now this guy hits me for a rolling attack, and now I go out with the big R2. And these dudes played well. Although I think it was a winnable invasion, but I think I played well. I did what I needed to do, but it wasn't enough with the setup. So in this game, more importantly than the number of dudes you are facing, it's how good they are. In that last invasion, those two dudes weren't very good, but they played together and they were reasonably good. These dudes right here, they are not very good at all, and it's three of them, and almost in a neutral situation as well. The blue sentinel, this dude right here, he only presses R1. The host spams a lot with his straight sword, and the thing is, there's a little bit of latency going on, so I'm not being able to face tank parry again here. And now I give up on trying to parry the dude. This dude right here, he just spams R1, and this makes it really easy to outspace with the Crescent Axe, which is what I'll be doing later, like this. And this dude didn't heal for the whole invasion, so I don't know what was going on there. So now it's a 2v1, and I get roll caught here, but again, this guy has no R1 discipline at all. He just spams, and now he panic rolls, and that's an easy kill. Now I know that the host is coming for me right now, so I take out the Llewellyn. I try to block, but you really don't need to block to know the timing of the restart parry, so I just go for the parry. Now I thought that I had the Undead Hunter charms on, and I ate a Green Blossom. I was pissed by that. Anyway, because of that, I'm throwing these out of neutral, because that put me a little bit off balance. So I'm not using the Llewellyn to parry anymore. I just used it to mitigate damage, because I'm not trusting the connection against his straight sword. Now I'm just outspacing him, and I've noticed that he's trying to parry the halberd on reaction. So I just strafe for the backstab for this 3v1, and I had to work much less on this one than on the other one, and I won this one. So in the end, it's really about the quality of the opponents that you face. So this fight right here, once again, was against one of these dudes that likes to pretend that he is a noob. So fallen armor set, noob set. So I went for the Chloranthy here because I'm not getting a lot from the Hornet ring, and the Chloranthy is one of those rings that's really useful when you have no other ring that's better for that situation. So it's always good to have, although it rarely is fundamental to your setup. So a noob also doesn't do turn and burn, so this dude has some idea what he's doing. He ran away for a while, and now I know how I want to kill him. I want to throw a running attack, and then I want to do a restart parry. I missed my range right here, but the idea is the same. Is to interrupt him before his hyper armor starts, and then go for the restart parry, and I'm gonna try again. So I double back and I get the range right this time, and I get the setup parry, the restart parry. So I go for the Crescent Axe for the riposte. Now the thing is, if I throw the Undead Hunter Charm against this corner where I'm facing, what happens is that he's going to roll away from that corner. So I need to lead him to a place that he feels well rolling into. So I try to, because I know he has a Silvercat ring, because I had been chasing him for a while, and I also have the Silvercat ring, I try to throw the Undead Hunter Charm into a way that he thinks that is safe. So I throw the Undead Hunter Charm, and now I go for the plunging attack. Now, there was a possibility that I wouldn't get the plunging attack, but now he's Undead Hunter Charmed, and he almost has no health. So probably I would be able to kill him with urns or with knives. So I thought that this was a really straightforward fight, so I only used the katana, because I wanted to show some parries. So I go for the R1 into weapon art R1, and this dude evaded, and there was some latency in this fight. But this gives me the idea of going for R1 into weapon art R1, and now look how fast the parry comes out. Especially if you notice that they are running into you. After you do the first weapon art R1, you can do the weapon art R2. And now I finished up with the charged R2 for the wake up, which is not very good on the katanas, but it sometimes works. So I wanted to show you guys the uses of the Crescent Axe weapon art. So I buff it and I go for the charged R2. And this dude rolls out, which is what you should do. Now I go for the follow-up R2, and notice how he gets stunned, because he was trying to take advantage of outspacing me. And notice how the stun interrupts his roll. So the best way to deal with this weapon art, it's not to trade, don't do anything, just let the dude waste his weapon art and then continue the fight. He won't do it a lot because it costs quite a bit of FP. So in melee builds, I think it's the best way to deal with it. So for the final invasion, this dude was not a very good player. He pressed R1 too many times. And notice that although it seems that I lost a lot on the trade, it wasn't that bad. He did like 600 damage, I did 450. So although it was not a good trade for me, I mean, it was not that bad. So now I want to reset the fight. I don't know why this dude wasn't healing, but well, sometimes they don't honor and all that. So I tell him to heal, and we can restart the fight. Now the only attack that this dude can do that is really dangerous, it's the rolling attack. And here I mistimed and I ate two R1s. So anyway, the only attack that's really dangerous that he can do, it's the rolling attack, and that's why I'm rolling when he does. And you can learn to behave, learn to understand the behavior of your opponents. If they roll into you, probably they're gonna do a rolling attack. So now I get this dude up with Lloyd's, and now he's up into a corner. So even if he rolls into me, he's just trying to get away, so I'm attacking. But on this case, he rolls into me because he wants to attack me, and that warrants the parry. So learning to understand what your opponent is going to do and watch their behavior. This was a good rolling attack by him because he knew I had to be aggressive, so I had no chance other to eat that attack. So that's when you should use it. Well, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time. Raven out.